The Isuzu MU-X is incredibly popular. In fact, it's smashing all of its like-minded ute-based SUV rivals. Yes, it might not be as technologically advanced or refined as the Ford Everest, but it outsells it almost 2 to 1. And if you combine the sales of the Holden Trailblazer and Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, well, that's about what the MU-X does. It's pretty impressive. But why is it so popular? Well, there are plenty of reasons why the MU-X is a good family SUV, but also some reasons why maybe you should consider one of its competitors instead of it. Let's run through both sides of the equation. The MU-X has 3 variants to choose from, and you have the choice of rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. Our test vehicle was the mid-spec LSU 4x4, and it costs about $53,000 with the automatic transmission. You can get a manual. There have been a few visual tweaks over the years, but it'd be hard to tell a 2013 MU-X from this model we have here. Now that's both good and bad. Good because it means the resale value of the earlier versions isn't affected as much, but bad because, well, some of the other competitor SUVs do look a little bit fresher. Our MU-X has a bunch of extras fitted to it, including this bonnet protector, the weather shields on the side, and a tow bar kit, all of which will add a little bit of extra cost. Inside, you feel like you're getting into a car that is a few years into its life cycle, and because it's ute-based, it doesn't feel particularly special in here, but it's not gross either. And in this spec, you get a big 8-inch touchscreen media system with Bluetooth phone and audio streaming and sat-nav built in, but you miss out on the latest in smartphone mirroring technology. So there's no Apple CarPlay, there's no Android Auto, which most of its rivals have, but you do get 2 USB points up here, one for media, one for charging, and a third USB point in the second row. I like that you get a leather trimmed steering wheel on all grades, and you also get audio controls on the steering wheel and cruise controls as well, but you don't get reach adjustment for the wheel, so you only get tilt adjustment, but you can't pull it further towards you. Now that means that you can struggle to find your perfect driving position, and it also sort of relates back to the fact that it is based on a ute. Storage in the cabin is pretty good. You get twin cup holders up front, plus cup holders on either side of the dash, a twin glove box setup, which is very handy indeed. Big bottle holders in the doors, but there is no spot to really comfortably store your smartphone next to the USB point, which is a bit annoying. Let's check out the back. Unlike the dual cab ute that it's based on, the MU-X does offer a little bit of extra comfort because you can recline the seats a little bit, which you can't do in the D-Max. And generally, the room back here is pretty good. I'm 6 foot tall, I've got enough knee room, headroom, and shoulder room to fit 3 of me across if I needed to. And if you have smaller humans as part of your mob, you'll find ISOFIX child seat anchor points on either side of the second row seats, plus there are 3 top tether seats. But if you're looking at an MU-X, you probably want to know what the 2 seats in the very back are like. Let me show you. As you can see, the space back here isn't necessarily perfect for someone my size. Headroom is pretty limited, and so is knee room, and these seats don't slide forward like some of the more passenger-focused SUVs in the segment. But unlike some of those other passenger-focused SUVs, the curtain airbags go all the way to the 3rd row, which is a big plus. Also back here, you get rear air vents, which is really handy, and they're for the 2nd row as well. You also get decent storage. There's a pair of cup holders way back here for your kids or teenagers, and if you have kids or teenagers, these occasional seats will be pretty well suited to your needs. Now, let's talk about the boot, because I seem to be sitting in it. As you can see, there's not a heap of space back there, but it's more than some of the other SUVs like the Toyota Kluger and Mazda CX-9. The cargo area is pretty impressive if you don't need to use the back seats. Easily enough for a family's worth of luggage or even a pram or 2. And the seats fold flat if you need extra space. You can fold them all the way down, and you could even sleep in there. The MU-X scored a 5-star NCAP safety rating way back in 2013. That was refreshed in 2017, but it wouldn't score that today because it misses out on some of the stuff that its rivals get, like auto emergency braking and lane keeping assist and blind spot monitoring. You do get a reverse camera and rear parking sensors, which is helpful if you're backing up to a trailer or just backing up at the shops, but it misses out on some of the good stuff. Now, let's take it for a drive. The engine offers pretty decent pulling power. There's reasonably good torque from 2000 to 2200 RPM, but either side of that you will notice some lag down low in the rev range, and it sort of runs out of puff anywhere above 2200 RPM. And it also gets quite noisy as well. It is a truck diesel after all. The transmission is pretty well sorted when it comes to shifting gears when it should, although it can get a little bit confused in 5th and 6th gears between 80 and 110 k's an hour. So if you're doing a lot of highway cruising, you might find that it feels like it's struggling to make up its mind. One of my biggest complaints about the MU-X is its steering. It's very heavy at low speeds and it takes a lot of turns lock to lock when you're doing parking moves or something like that. And at high speed, it's not very reassuring either. It can be a little bit hard to position yourself in your lane on the highway. The suspension though does a really good job. It doesn't pick up all the little bumps in the surface underneath you like some of the other ute-based SUVs out there. It never feels unsettled at the back, which is important, although you can get a little bit of an out of sync feeling between the front and rear axle if you hit a big pothole or something like that. But show me a four-wheel drive at this price point that doesn't do that. Now, we aren't doing a towing review today, but I can tell you that the unbraked towing capacity is 750 kilos and the brake towing capacity is 3 tons, which is a little bit less than some of the better SUVs in the class, but it's pretty good. Now that's the regular boring driving stuff out of the way. What's it like off-road? While the capabilities of the MU-X do extend it to the level of a pretty hardcore SUV, most people will probably find themselves on roads like this, unsealed gravel tracks where there's bumps, there's puddles, maybe you're on your way to your favorite campground, or maybe you're on the big Aussie trip. And in those situations, the MU-X does really good work. It feels comfortable, it doesn't shudder around too much over bumps, and the steering's nice and direct. And also, the engine, with its low down torque, allows you to climb up steeper sections if you do find yourself in a bit more of a sticky situation. But you need to remember that it comes with no limited slip differential and no locking rear differential, which some of its rivals do have. And it could mean the difference between getting up something that's steep and slippery or being stuck. You need to keep that in mind. While we haven't had to go into low range mode today, we've flicked it to 4 high. It's a simple flick of a switch and you'll find yourself with a lot more traction than you had in 2-wheel drive mode. And you will need to use that 4 high mode if you find yourself on gravel tracks, because at times the rear end can step out. But for enthusiasts or just occasional off-roaders, it's a pretty accomplished thing. So there are some good bits and some not so good bits about the Isuzu MU-X. People in this part of the market are looking for a good deal though, and Isuzu often has really good drive-away deals. Plus you get a 5-year ownership plan with a cap price service plan and 5-year warranty. For me though, I think you can do better. There are more competitive offerings out there, especially if you value safety equipment as much as I do.